Welcome. I'm Beth Sutton. I'm the Director and Developer of Enki Education.
And I am Amy Wallace, Associate Director of Enki Education and a homeschooling mom. We come to you today as part of a new approach to introducing Enki to new parents and teachers. I know when I started with Enki over 10 years ago, I very much wished I could hear directly from parents who were working with the approach in their homes. That is a wish we have heard echoed many times.
So in the series of video chats you're about to see, we have invited homeschoolers from across the country to come together electronically and share with you their experiences. They will talk about everything from what brought them to Enki to what inspires them, what challenges them, how they've worked through difficulties, how they've made it fit their family. And these will be offered in separate sessions so that you don't have to sit for too long at any one go. As I mentioned, they are coming to you from across the country by virtue of the magic of technology. So this electronic tea is being filmed with people in different locations. The result is that you'll have to bear with us for some less than ideal video quality. And we hope you'll enjoy your time with us. We're going to begin by meeting these homeschoolers and hearing about what brought them to work with Enki in the first place.
My name's Tosca. I live in Maine, and I have two boys. Phineas is 9-ish, and Knox is 6. And I've been working with Enki for a long time, 5.5 years. And I actually have Kat to credit for that. Hi. So I had always thought I was going to homeschool my kids, and I was influenced. Mostly the people around me were unschoolers, and I loved the idea of really meeting them where they were at. But when I looked at unschooling, it just did not have enough structure for me. And Kat was part of a group with Angie as well, who had the materials, and I went to visit Kat, and I just fell in love with it. And all of her books spread out on the floor.
All our children crawled around them.
Yes. You know, it's been so long now, it's hard to remember exactly what it was, but, you know, I love the idea that that I could meet them where they were, but also let them discover the world around them. So sort of joining that, almost helping them follow their interests in a way that was developmentally appropriate.
I found Enki because I thought my child was a genius because he wanted to spell his name and everything when he was 2, you know, so I started like schooling him when he was 2, and then realized within like a month that was burnout for him and for me. And so I was just looking around for something else, and I found Enki, and it's much more global, and I have a master's degree in international relations, so I'm, all about culture and lots of culture, not just Europe or Western culture, but so it really spoke to me as a person, and I had no background at all in childhood development. So when I actually got the materials, and I learned, I'm going to learn a lot more than just what I'm going to be teaching, when I'm going to be teaching, but why. And so I fell in love with the philosophy, and then I fell in love with the way it helped me meet my children where they were at. And I have 3 children, and my oldest is Joshua, and he's 10, and then I have Hannah, who is 8, and then I have my little one, who's 2.5. And so we've been doing this since Joshua and Hannah were kindergarten, preschool.
Should we roll the ball to Angie there?
My name is Angie, and I have a 12-year-old and an 8-year-old. So I think I have the oldest of the main of the main that do Enki. I started my oldest when he was in kindergarten, but before I got started, I did a kind of a very in-depth look at different homeschooling philosophies. I actually offered a course on we read about unschooling and Waldorf and classical and Charlotte Mason, and we a bunch of parents got together and we talked about what we saw and what we thought were the positives. And I have to say, at that point, I thought, oh, classical homeschooling is completely the way to go. And then at some point, I realized that would be how I wanted to learn as an adult, but not how I would have wanted to learn as a child. So I started looking for possible approaches that were more holistic. And I came across a conversation about Enki that I think was happening on the mothering.com board. And I was very interested in it. And I wanted to get more information, but it was kind of difficult. I read through all of the pages that were on there, but there was no one that we knew locally that had been working with this information. And so I kept coming back to it and kept feeling resistance about actually taking the plunge. And finally, I realized that I just needed to trust my intuition. And so I bought the kindergarten materials and the foundation guides, I think in the fall of the kindergarten year. And as someone who likes to really look at things in depth, it's been a really good match for us. So I had to finally give way to what I knew was right.
Shamar, how about you?
My name is Shamar, and I have 3 kids. My oldest, Phaedra, is 8, and I have a 6-year-old Rowan and a 4-year-old Soren. I, like a lot of the moms, started out wanting to homeschool and really looking towards Waldorf. I have a strong sense that I wanted my children to have a love and appreciation for nature. And I have always had a strong belief that they should be spending a lot of time outdoors and a lot of time playing, not so much time just sitting in front of work or worksheets. I had tried to do, in preschool, I kind of did my own like Waldorf, Montessori, and just took things that I found offline. And then I bought a Waldorf curriculum for kindergarten before I found Enki. And it was nice, but it didn't really touch my heart. I didn't really feel a very strong sense that it was right for my family. And then a friend of mine showed me her Enki curriculum, and I fell in love with it mostly because of the beauty of the material and the songs and the stories and the finger plays and everything that I read about the child development, and everything just really struck me as true. It all aligned with where my oldest daughter was at, and I just was really amazed when I read through it at how much it fit. And I've been loving it ever since. And even to this day, we just started 3rd grade, and I was reading through the material about how 3rd graders can become very self-conscious, and I was like, that explains it. It explains the change that my daughters had this summer, and I was like, that's it right there. And it helps me really meet their needs and their developmental milestones a lot, to have a lot of that information that was researched so well on hand so that I can kind of see it. So it's been great for us.
Amy, how about you?
Hi, I'm Amy in Denver, Colorado, and I have 2 children, a 13-year-old son, Joseph, and almost 10-year-old daughter, Rebecca. And we've been homeschooling with an Enki approach since Joseph was in kindergarten, and we'll be starting 8th grade. My journey to Enki started with exploring what we would be doing for schooling for Joseph. What we saw was that what the social aspects of being in a group of children would take, energetically what it would require of him to show up for that, would take away from any learning he was doing. And then I went home and said, now what am I going to do? I have sung all the songs I know, told all the stories I know, and I have this child who was looking to me saying, okay, here we are. And I was getting things out of the library, and I still remember clear as day, he was nearing, he had to be 4, heading toward 5. And now with the lens I have, I brought a second grade trickster story to him. And he was shattered. He laid on the couch and cried, and it was just way too much for his little 4 or 5-year-old self. And here I thought, oh, it was such a lovely picture book, and it was multicultural. And so I was stumped, and I was peeking around in that feeling, trying to find curriculum that could support me and help me make sense of how do I approach these next couple of years. And I just, through kind of looking at Waldorf sites and such, came upon Enki and was so excited about the multicultural component. I think that stood out for me, along with the, at that time, what I understood is holistic approach, really looking at educating the mind, heart, and body. And so went ahead and purchased the curriculum, and wow, did I get song and story, lots of it to support me, and also the lens of that developmental component of, what's going on for this 4 or 5-year-old, and how do I look, I knew clearly when he was laying on the couch sobbing after the trickster story, I had missed the mark. But knowing there were other ways I could pay attention, and the materials really helped me be able to do that.
All right, so I'll say mine. I started with the free school movement back in the 60s, very committed to experimental education. And I found over time that it really wasn't serving the children. And I felt really strongly that there had to be a place where form and freedom supported one another, where it wasn't just form or just freedom, and the child's health was what came out. So it set me on a lifelong journey, which I don't consider over by any means. I consider that the ongoing question in Enki that I really keep alive. Where is that place where the two things really feed each other? But my journey took me through emergent curriculum and studying Montessori. I never taught Montessori, and training and teaching in Waldorf. And back around to this ongoing, I really consider it a moment-to-moment, lifelong process of continually trying to find where form and freedom are mutually supportive. I think that probably of most interest to people, homeschoolers, is that I did not start out believing in homeschooling. I learned that the gift for the children of being at home is really priceless. One of the questions that comes up all the time is about socialization. And as a classroom teacher, I was right there believing all that stuff. And then we had our first homeschool conference. And what stood out to myself and the person who was working with the children, and between us, we had about 40 years of classroom work at that time. We had never seen a group of children better socialized than the homeschoolers. And we went in dreading it. We went in believing it was going to be a nightmare. And what we found was we had kids from age 2 to age 12. I think we had 15 of them. And they came in eager to be part of a group and supportive of one another, not competing for who gets what at all. At first, we thought maybe it was a fluke, but we did, I believe we did 10 conferences, and without exception, we saw the same thing. So I came to really watch it over that time and really see how much we tend to rush the young child, and how much being at home can give them a chance to not enter that internal battle of how do I fit. And then 5 years ago, I started homeschooling my grandson. So I've really gotten firsthand commitment to homeschooling, and we have a lot of fun. So it always, keeps recommitting me to the beauty of homeschooling, and also to how much we're rushing the average child into these huge groups when they're so young and really need some space just to find their own footing before they tackle that kind of world. So that's my journey to be here.